Despite what the critics said about it, Lee Cronin's The Mummy was a big success this past weekend for Atomic Blumhouse. Let's talk a little bit about sequel potential and how this movie exists in the Evil Dead universe.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
I want to be a fighter, like you.
Oh, let it burn! Let it burn!
Did you miss me?
You have to shoot them in the head. They always come back.
The boat can leave now. Tell the crew.
Well, sometimes that is better.
Good luck.
Hey everybody, I'm Killjoy Jake. Today we have some really exciting updates to get into, but before all of that, please make sure to like this video and subscribe for more horror update videos just like this one. Also, if you want to see uncut versions of the reaction videos that go up on this page, make sure to support the page over on Patreon. The link for that will be in the description below. Thank you to my channel members and Patreon supporters who keep the lights on around here. Now let's get into the updates. Lee Cronin's take on The Mummy is a pretty big box office success, pulling in $34 million this past weekend against its $22 million budget. It's still got a long way to go before it's considered profitable. A lot of money went into the marketing on this one, but it's off to a very good start, and it seems like that's definitely going to be the case here. This is a very big success for Blumhouse and Atomic Monster that recently merged. The last time that Blumhouse put out some sort of reimagining of an old school Universal classic, it didn't exactly do too well at the box office. In fact, Wolfman from 2025 only made $34 million in its entire theatrical run, where The Mummy just did that this past weekend. So the critics might have hated this one, but the fans showed up. I was definitely one of them, and oh boy did I like this. Check out my review in case you missed it. Now, whenever a horror movie does well at the box office, it's impossible not to question if they're going to make another one or not, and that may actually be the case, because Lee Cronin, the writer-director of this film, who literally put his fucking name on it, already has some ideas. During an interview with Variety, Lee Cronin said of the possibility of a sequel, "I'm gonna repeat the best advice I was ever given by people that know how to make movie franchises work. Rich Brenner and Dave Neustadter, and they'll always say, we let the audience decide." I'm very audience focused, but I absolutely adore the characters in this world, and we've dipped our toes into a much, much bigger lore. If the audience really likes this world and this universe, then there's no doubt there would be conversations about how we could continue to grow it. And as the originator and creator of it, I'd want to be pretty involved with that. And I think there are great opportunities, because this movie is on a timeline. It's about a family in the here and now in Albuquerque, New Mexico, that are being affected by the choice another family made in Egypt 3,000 years ago. So no pun intended, I think there is a sandpit. From the way he's talking there, it sounds like if another Mummy movie is to be made in this storyline, it could be a prequel story that takes place thousands of years ago. Just a reminder, this is all speculation. The Mummy 2 is not confirmed, but I hope it gets the green light soon. I would absolutely love more of this. Now, we have some more Mummy and Evil Dead stuff to talk about in this video, but real quick, I do want to talk about some of the other projects that Lee Cronin may be working on sometime soon. You know, before we get into spoilers for The Mummy, the movie that just came out. Spoilers are coming up, by the way. During that same interview with Variety, Lee Cronin talked a little bit about some of his other projects coming up here, like a new supernatural horror film called Box of Bones, as well as a folk horror series, Spiral. Not from the Book of Saw, though. Chatting a bit about both of these, Cronin said, "I have a project called Box of Bones, which I was developing after I made The Hole in the Ground, and I was developing it again after Evil Dead Rise and before I made The Mummy, but it was kind of starting to just slip down the pecking order, and for some reason it's really appealing to me. It's kind of burning in my mind." Also chatting about this Spiral TV series, he says, "We've got a television show that we are in full partnership with Blumhouse and Atomic Monster on. It's called Spiral, and it's set in 1980s Ireland and dripping in folklore, repression, and the strangeness of the Irish countryside." Cronin also remarked that he's producing a found footage movie as well as a slasher movie with his Wicked Good company. So you're gonna get a lot of Lee Cronin feeling projects coming up very soon here. Maybe the most interesting thing about Cronin talking about other projects that he wants to pursue is that his dream project is doing some sort of new installment in the Nightmare on Elm Street series. God, we need another one of those.
How's this for a wet dream?
Cronin said of this, "I would find it very hard not to have a swing at old Freddy Krueger because he haunted my nightmares throughout my entire childhood and still pops up about 4 times a year. But I actually think it's unlikely that my next movie will be franchise adjacent, and that's something that feels important to me right now." It sounds like we're likely getting this Box of Bones mysterious story from him that will likely feel much more like his original feature, The Hole in the Ground, which, if you haven't seen it, is very underrated. I think I might like Evil Dead Rise a little more. That's probably still my favorite, but if you liked The Mummy and Evil Dead Rise, you gotta check out Hole in the Ground.
What's wrong with you, Mommy?
You're not
My son.
It's very different from the other movies in Cronen's catalog in a good way. So if you think this guy is just all about the gross out scare, you gotta watch his first movie. There's a lot more to that one than what meets the eye. I would not mind his take on A Nightmare on Elm Street at all, although I gotta say, I think my number one person to do Nightmare on Elm Street right now gotta be Scott Derrickson after Black Phone 2. Lee Cronin would make an excellent campy Nightmare on Elm Street that's super gross and the dream sequences would be elaborate as hell. That would not be a bad movie by any means, and I'll take it. Beggars can't be choosers right now, man. I'll take any Nightmare on Elm Street movie I can get. I think Scott Derrickson would genuinely make it scary though. I mean, I love the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, but it leans more towards campy than it does scary. And maybe one of my craziest hot takes, I think the scariest part of the entire Nightmare on Elm Street franchise is the opening scene to the remake. And that movie is dog water outside of that opening scene. A Black Phone 2 style Freddy film, I would die for that. Okay, we're gonna get into some Mummy spoilers to talk a little bit about the alternate ending of the film. During a different interview with THR, Lee Cronin was talking a bit about the original ending, saying at one point we ended the movie earlier. We ended it more around Charlie's sacrifice, which was really important to me, but it was leaving the audience feeling a little bit incomplete. I really care about the audience having a thrill ride, but also having some semblance of relief or celebration. I then realized, you know what? We put these characters through a lot. We punish them and drag them in all these different dark places. We've got to let them off the hook a little bit at the end. We can't leave them arrested in these moments. Walking out of the theater, I was definitely thinking that to myself. It could have ended right there with Charlie sucking up the demon, being put in the tomb, and that's it. I especially loved the moment at the end where he's doing the Morse code on the sarcophagus to Katie. That's probably the most effective emotional stuff in the entire film. But I can't lie, watching that ending sequence felt really satisfying and almost turns this movie into a revenge thriller. I feel like it works just because of how inconsistent the tone is previously. I mean, this movie is all kinds of things wrapped up into one, and I kind of love that about it. If you're gonna tack on some sort of weird ending like this that, yes, actually does tie up some loose ends, this is the movie to do that in. And I do agree, I think having some levity, having some sort of semblance, you know, taking us out of the dark place after we've been through it this movie, I think was deserved. And finally, a big question about The Mummy has been answered. Yes, it does exist within the Evil Dead universe. Chatting with Collider, Lee Cronin said that if you pay attention to the name of the archaeological professor in the movie, he could be a distant relative of some key characters in Evil Dead Rise. That character's name was Professor Bixler in The Mummy, and in Evil Dead Rise, our main character is Beth Bixler. I never knew she had a superhero name. That's pretty cool. In terms of family, like who do you think this would be to Beth? I wonder if it's like her uncle or something. It's pretty cool that that little Easter egg was thrown in there. Thank you all so much for watching. Please subscribe, and as always, don't forget to kill it out there, y'all.